identity as a nation, and even more so, it sought to determine how it would function as a state. It was a time of upheaval and change. 1932 saw the end of the rule of the Cumann na Mbeidh government and the beginning of the Fianna Fáil reign. It was also marked as a time when Ireland hosted the Eucharistic Congress. Not surprisingly, it was the year in which a man was born who would dedicate his life to the Catholic Church and the promotion of Irish culture. Pat Ahern was born in North Kerry. As he said, "I was born in March, the March hare, and I grew up in a little townland, Leitrim Middle, a townland in the parish of Whelan in North Kerry." My interview with Pat was something of a new venture for me, as I was not there to collect music nor song nor stories necessarily, but it was not all that dissimilar to my previous ethnographic collection. One of the aims of my interview with him was to learn of the creator's vision in relation to his particular presentation of folk theatre, and to recognise the role of the interview from the point of view of folkloristics. This is set into the context of a changing society at the time of the creator's own experiences, as well as at the time of production. Factors to be taken into account include religious, social, and other dimensions. As a public figure, Pat has been generous to students, journalists, and many others throughout the years, particularly since 1964, and several interviews have been made. A number of them were broadcast, while others have been published or quoted in theses related to folk theatre, drama, music, and other subject areas. The others of the family would learn the fiddle. None of the others did, but I persevered, and she taught me my first tune. The daily, seasonal, and annual combination and overlap of work, pastime, ritual, and change were evident in Pat's early home life. As he said, the house was a kind of rambling house. We had music. My brother Sean was a musician. He played the pipes and whistle and flute. And the kind of routine we might have on a summer's evening. We'd come in tired from the meadow, we'd help milking the cows, and then, by way of relaxation, we'd take out the football, and we'd play until dusk. Then, those of us who played music, we'd sit down, we'd play music until bedtime. We had a lot of people coming to the house. We had Ian Keogh. Numerous external influences were at work at this point in the late 1930s, early 1940s, and Irish society and the expression of the vernacular were set to change. So Pat was a child at that cusp of transformation and change. For example, the introduction of the Public Dance Halls Act in 1935 would change private house dances and dancing at the crossroads. The spontaneity of music and dance in people's homes was affected, and the notion of the rambling house was transformed into a more regulated, structured environment. So we've seen some of what was taking place in Pat's home, and we can move on to what was happening in his school during his years of early development. What was once learned and acquired organically was now elevated to the area of more formal education. We also see this with the Irish Folklore Commission, and in particular the school scheme from 1937 to 1938, where schools were seen as vehicles in the school situation can play in instilling a regard for tradition. Pat said, "One of my other experiences I had, that was unusual at the time for a lad of my age, was that I got to know a famous dancing master in North Kerry, Jeremiah Molyneux. We pronounced it Molyneux or Monix. He came to our school when I was in 3rd class probably, and announced that he would be teaching dancing in the local hall for the next 6 weeks, and that anybody interested should drop into the school, just drop into the hall after school. So a number of us did, and I remember well he began by telling us what he would be doing and showing us a couple of the steps. And I often say this, and I've never forgotten what that did to me, to see what was possible. To see what was possible with your 2 feet, and the way he manipulated the feet on the floor. And I attended his class. Later then, his teaching of dance steps and dances was transferred to the home, through connections with the community. Again, in Pat's words, and then I was fortunate that he got to know a neighbour who was a dancer, a lovely dancer, that was a good bit older than me at the time. And he used to come to his house to teach him steps, and he came to my house, crossed the fence, and taught me some steps. And it was really only in later life that I began to appreciate what a privilege that had been for me, because this man now was famous even today for his dance. So if we continue to follow Pat's memories of this time, we can see him developing into a keen learner and an intuitive teacher. It was not only gathering the skills of learning, but also of teaching dance that he had. As he describes here the method of instruction employed by Whelan. He had a method of teaching, obviously, and he broke down the steps into little bits and pieces which he had names for. There was a double drum, there was a single drum, which you did with your toe and heel, and there was a double drum that you did with toe and heel twice. But also of the resulting dance performance. The remit of the Irish Folklore Commission and the earlier model of the Folklore of Ireland Society was to record, preserve and publish. Ennis and other collectors tended to collect from older people who were often seen to be the last of the tradition bearers. As folklorist Jim Whelan recognised in his seminal publication from 2001, Locating Irish Folklore, folklore is predicated on the death of tradition. Since the word first appeared, it has carried an aura which has been a burden to the study of popular culture. Folklore appeared as it was disappearing. Pat's recollection often gives a fuller understanding of the life of tradition at the time. He communicated the vibrancy of the dance tradition and its prevalence. And speaking of dance, he said, I often think among the men it was a kind of cult. They talked about dance like people would talk about football. They were proud, really proud of the skills they had. And there was also a certain rivalry and a jealousy maybe. I have this step and I wouldn't give it to you. And I would try and steal your step if you weren't inclined to give it to me. So this sense of competition among dancers is often experienced in storytelling, singing. I began to see the magic of the stage, you know, and the make-believe, the possibilities of make-believe, with lights and so on, and that made a big impression on me. This account identifies a particular moment and highlights the intensity of the draw to theatre. Everyone, I think, who's involved in the arts can relate and tell a similar story of when they became impassioned by something, whether in the sphere of drama, theatre, writing, painting, or music. The interview with Pat communicates an inherent sense of wanting to collect tradition. Similar to many other collectors, Pat is both insider and outsider. He was brought up within the tradition and has also observed the tradition as